What's up, guys, and welcome to yesterday's workout. My workload is pretty high right now when it comes to actual work, which means my training should be suffering, but it isn't particularly. I'm really consistent right now, and I'm in a flow of training every other day, upper and lower. That means I train 3.5 days a week. If we want to put it out to 14 days, that would be 7 training days. That's currently where I'm at. I'm in a bit of a flow. I'm going to maintain this flow for a little while here until I come up with something different. But this is pretty much where I'm at. Training every other day, resting every other day, and on training days I do either upper or I do lower. So this is a training frequency which is kind of a good balance between recovering but not leaving so long between sessions that my head gets out of the game. That's the big thing, because I made extreme progress, not extreme, but I made really good progress doing 1 set per exercise. So 3 sets in total on a full body session. So I literally embodied Mike Mensa's training for months last year, and I gained significant strength on it. And the reason I don't gain strength right now on that same volume is, well, actually I'm doing more volume now. But the reason I kind of stagnated at a later point doing that was probably because, I mentally stagnated. That was a real issue. And training every other day here is keeping me mentally consistent and in a good physical pocket where I can recover, but not kind of have enough time to become lazy with my training, if that makes sense. So physically, I am recovering session to session. I'm not really training with muscle soreness, which means, I'm in a pretty good pocket. However, I'm not waiting many days after muscle soreness to go away to kind of train again. So training every other day is working much better than training 2 days on, 1 day off, 2 days on, and then 2 days off. So the classic Monday, Tuesday, upper, lower, Wednesday rest, Thursday, Friday, upper, lower, and weekend off. That classic split was the original plan, but instead of doing kind of Monday upper, Tuesday rest, Wednesday lower, Thursday rest, and so on, and just train for the weekends, training, all the time, is working really well, I would say. Because I'm finally making progress. So I'm very happy with this. And, I'm right in a really good pocket with the volume as well on my training. I'm doing enough training to get stronger, but I'm not really doing enough training to overtrain. So I'm in a very, very good place right now. And any adjustment at this point should be small because I'm pretty close to an optimum. If you're making progress, you're pretty close to an optimum most likely. And I've kind of found a sweet spot here. And if I want to do anything, I will probably increase volume. I would say, I wanted to do 4 days a week training. That was the original plan. But I don't think that's the best for me right now, honestly. Because when I hit upper one day, I am a bit fatigued the next day, and I don't really feel like it necessarily to hit that lower body really hard. And you also have some interference and some overlap there because of the way I train upper and lower body. For example, doing upper on the first day and hitting lats until destruction, basically with chin-ups, is going to destroy your deadlifting, and not destroy, but it's going to worsen my deadlifting the next day. But resting 1 day and then hitting the deadlift means my lats are pretty recovered, and they're not 100%, but they are significantly better than they would have been the day before. A lot less fatigued at least, which means I can deadlift with high intensity. So I've found a really good flow. I'm very happy with it, and I've also discovered these kettlebell swings. These aren't fun. I don't really like them. But they've really been effective. I've increased these by 11 reps from 50 to 61 reps, and I've already gotten a stronger squat, finally hit 130 times 10, which isn't my best ever, but it's the best I've done during these weeks of very dedicated training here. I finally kind of cracked 130 times 10, which means I'm going to do 132.5 next time I hit legs. And I'm really looking forward to that, getting closer to my previous PR of 137.5 times 10, which actually is crazy, like how far I came with the squats compared to the deadlift. But that's life. And one of the reasons is because my lower back was limiting me and my hamstrings as well. Hamstrings not necessarily on the squat, but definitely in my lower back. And that's the reason my squat PR, all-time squat PR is 160 and my all-time deadlift PR is 185. The reason is that the reason my deadlift is only 25 kilos ahead when it comes to all-time bests is probably not my leverages. It's probably to do with the fact that my lower back and my grip is so weak that I kind of have a skewed ratio. My squats, however, is probably never going to catch up to my deadlift because that would make my lower back, because the deadlift needs to be ahead, because otherwise my lower back would be too weak to squat the way I can deadlift, if that makes sense. Bit of a chicken and egg thing there. Perhaps the logic is wrong, but my deadlift will probably always be ahead of my squat, even if I don't train optimally. But my plan is to train a lot more optimally when it comes to hitting my lower back and hamstrings harder, and I want to get my deadlift ahead a bit again. Ideally, I want to deadlift probably like a plate more than a squat, so about 40 kilos more, not 25. I think that this is realistic. I think it's reasonable as well. I think my squat is pretty good, and I definitely think that my deadlift needs some work. And I think that is where my focus should go. Now, the problem is I always squat before I deadlift. It's always worked for me well, and the reason is the squat only really fucks my... That sounded crazy, I'm not even going to say it, but the squat only really fatigues my glutes. Doesn't really fatigue my low back that much, and not my hamstrings at all, not my grip, not my upper back. Like, I can deadlift really hard after squatting and not get that much weaker, but the other way around is really goofy and I can't really do that properly at all. Maybe that would be good to expose that lower back weakness, but I think there's a reason that the deadlift is last in the powerlifting meet. It kind of destroys the whole system, and doing anything after that is going to be severely compromised. But perhaps I need to continue doing the kettlebell swings along with deadlifts so that I get a bit more volume on the backside instead of the front when it comes to the legs, because having big legs, big quads isn't super important to me. That isn't really why I train legs. I train legs because I want to be really strong. The strength and the power and the running capability, your ability to tackle someone and even to punch hard, all of these things just come from the legs, bro. Like, your upper body is extremely important to not only increase that power, but also to kind of catch that power, if that makes sense. So if you generate power from your legs, if your shoulders and if your back is so weak that you can't kind of transfer that lower body power into your punch, then you need to work more upper body. But oftentimes it's the legs that generates the force. It's the legs that are important for longevity, for movement, for, everything which is actually practical. Apart from looks, your legs are a lot more important than the upper body. And I would say that if you have to do one exercise for life when it comes to lifting weights, I would definitely say, not the push-up, not the pull-up, not the bench press, not the bicep curl. The most important lift you can do is the deadlift or the squat. Non-negotiables. Doesn't really matter how you do them. I would definitely recommend the conventional deadlift as opposed to the sumo deadlift, because some people have such good leverages with sumo that, it's just not a particularly effective exercise to build up your hamstrings and your lower back, at least not in comparison to the conventional deadlift. Also, it doesn't hit the upper back as much because the angle is a lot more upright for almost everyone. But yeah, guys, don't skip your deadlifts. They're extremely important. There are so many people, and I know a lot of people personally, who are genuinely just very weak on the deadlift. Big arms, big chest, terrible lower back strength. And the funny thing is, I don't like that whole thing with lifters being weak in the most important muscles in their entire body. And the funny thing is, it literally happened to me. I'm there at this point. Somehow I ended up where I don't want to be, which is really weird, but I definitely need to work on it. And the thing is, with the lower back, that not only is it painful, it's also kind of scary to train your lower back. I think it's something primal that, well, you know what? I'm going to change my mind immediately. It's probably not primal. It's probably just programming. It's probably not. It probably is primal to use your lower back properly, but and just pull with all your might, because it's not going to break because you're fucking healthy. But maybe the modern programming is telling you don't use your lower back. But it's a evil cycle of having a weak lower back, not using a lower back, getting an even weaker lower back, and getting injured the first time you use it. So I'd much rather have a bulletproof lower back, really train my lower back to decrease my risk of injury rather than not use it, And I really believe in the if you don't use it, you lose it term. When it comes to pretty much everything, like so many school subjects, I was much better at 16, 17 years of age than I am now. That's because I don't use them. For example, certain things in mathematics, well, pretty much everything in mathematics, everything in physics, chemistry, biology. A lot of my knowledge has literally deteriorated because I haven't used it. And it's the same thing with your body. If you don't use your lower back, if you don't push it, it has no reason to carry muscle there. It's going to carry the level of muscle that it needs. That's just the reality. And, then you have the plus or minus due to genetics as well. For example, someone who is sedentary but has extremely good muscle building genetics, they might just maintain more muscle while still being sedentary. But within one individual, so for you, if you don't use a muscle, it's just going to atrophy really far. And if you do use it, it's still not going to be strong. You have to actually push it for it to be strong. So that's the thing with my lower back is, I've always pushed my lats with volume and intensity, and I've done it consistently, but I didn't really push my lower back to that level, and definitely not with the volume and not with the consistency. So both volume, intensity, and frequency have been a bit lower for my lower back. So it's pretty logical to assume that it isn't a genetic thing at all. Like, this isn't a big weakness that I have, and it isn't permanent. That's what I mean. It is a weakness, but it's not permanent. But it's definitely my fault. I am the reason I'm where I am when it comes to my weak lower back, and I will fix it. I finally made a good voiceover now. This is like the 5th attempt, and I will be going to bed shortly. Just have to shower first. I will see you guys tomorrow. Goodbye.